We are back, Golenbock University. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The three of us, the three Baseball Mishuganas, are here with a guest. Maybe another guest later on. Actually, it's four Baseball Mishuganas because Ronnie Rabiovitz is here to join Al Blumkin, Peter Golenbock, the professor, and myself. We're all for Yidden and a little crazy, a little Mishugana when it comes to baseball, in a good way, by the way. We're all proud of it, and we're here today to honor a woman who is directly responsible for the success that Branch Rickey and Jackie Robinson had. She's Rachel Robinson. She was last week inducted to the Hall of Fame. And two people who know her really well. Rachel Robinson granted Mr. Golenbock an interview that was what he claims to be what was based on the iconic book on the Dodgers bums. Her interview set the tone, or the book was centered around that. And sure. Ronnie Rabiovitz is here, who is a true friend of Jackie Robinson, and knows Rachel to the point where they hug and cheer up when they see each other. So what two better people to inform, teach Alan Blumkin and I, who are well aware of the era, and just teach us things we don't know about their relationship and how wonderful it was, and how we were so blessed that we as a society was so blessed that she was there for Jackie, because right. I don't believe, given everything I know about his temperament, if he hadn't had Rachel by his side, he couldn't have done it. And right. If I'm wrong, we'll start with Ronnie, our guest. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all, Ralph. Excuse me. Okay. She was really the person behind the whole thing. I mean, naturally, Jackie was, of course, on the field and enduring everything, but she was there at his side, and she was a tremendous influence to him. This was a real love story between the two of them. They truly loved each other. They were very, very close. When he was on the road, he would write her letters. And they stayed in touch all the time. The first year, as a matter of fact, in 1947, she was allowed to travel with the team, the only wife that was allowed to travel with the team. And
really?
Branch Rickey felt that was important because Jackie needed a support figure, and that was Rachel. And she, in her own right, is such a magnificent woman. She's an educated, wonderful, wonderful lady. It's an honor to know her, and she's a very dear friend.
Nice. Peter, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that Jackie Robinson was the most important person in the history of the American Civil Rights Movement. Right. Without Jackie Robinson, you don't have Martin Luther King's success. You might not even have Brown v. Board of Education. I mean, Jackie Robinson, all by himself, proved to this country that African Americans were every bit as good in every way as whites. And believe it or not, this was in the year 1947. Before that, African Americans literally were not allowed on the same field as whites. So there was no way they could prove to the world that this was so, because they were not given the opportunity. And so you take one man and you say to him, we're going to put you on this all-white team against the finest ball players in the world, and all you have to do is succeed so that your race can have a shot at being equal. I mean, if you can imagine doing that, you're a better person than I.
Right.
And in fact,
and then
go ahead.
If you think about any rookie breaking into the league, how tough it is, and then having all these obstacles in front of him, where they were throwing balls at his head. There was no there was no helmets in those days. It was just baseball caps. Death threats, throwing black cats on the field, spiking him. All these other obstacles.
Spiking him on the bases. Folks being accused of it, like who later went on to prominence. Joe Garagiola, for one.
That's right.
Enos Slaughter. For another.
Who always denied it. Slaughter always denied that he did it, oddly enough.
Yeah. Well, he even spiked him.
Yeah. No, right.
In 1947. Yep.
But the amazing thing about him is, despite all that pressure, he ended up being the Rookie of the Year in the National League, and he ended up leading the Brooklyn Dodgers to the pennant. I can't think of a more amazing achievement in the world of sports to this day.
Right.
There's Jackie Robinson doing that, and quite frankly, I'm not even sure what number 2 is. That's how amazing.
I agree with you. I was in Los Angeles a couple of years ago. Larry King flew me out there for an interview. Mm-hmm. He was telling me a story that the first time he ever interviewed Martin Luther King, he introduced him as the founder of the Civil Rights Movement. And Martin Luther King stopped him and said, "Larry, I have to correct you. I'm not the founder. Jackie Robinson was." And it's true. He was.
He absolutely was. And the amazing thing is, I wrote Bums, I think it was 1983. When I
84.
Well, that's when it came out, but I started writing it before it came out. And as I'm writing this thing, I'm realizing that the world does not understand just how important Jackie Robinson was.
No one knows, Peter.
This was years before they deemed to retire his uniform number in every stadium. This was years before he was ever given the credit for what he did. When he started playing in 1947, it was barely mentioned. It was barely mentioned that this guy was African American. He was called the Negro.
No, he was called a Native American / military sergeant / UCLA Olympian / football, baseball player out of Pasadena / with no identity.
Right.
In the New York newspapers, they call them just the Negro, which
just
was kind of interesting. Right. And they never made a big deal about it, ever. No. Never, ever did they make a big deal about it, which I thought was incredible. And when these teammates of his started talking about Jackie and what he did, it just left me, the chills ran up and down my spine. And as you said, my fortune was that my uncle Justin Golenbock was Jackie and Rachel's attorney. They were moving to Stamford, Connecticut. So in 1956, when I was 10, my uncle took me to the World Series to meet Jackie, which is sort of a momentous moment, in my life, so to speak, because my senior thesis at Dartmouth was about Jackie Robinson, and my book Bums was from that same, generated from that same meeting when I was 10 years old and got to meet Jackie Robinson. And Rachel was kind enough to sit with me for 3 hours and tell me the whole story. And it was just, it was the highlight of the whole book. It really was.
Guess who his roommate was, Peter? I was just with him 4 days ago. Jim Campan.
Mudcat.
Senior.
Jim Campan.
Was a roommate. Jim Kingpin's son, Junior, came to me and said, Lenny, I got to share this with you because a lot of people don't know that my dad, who got banned from the Dodgers, was Jackie Robinson's roommate and was the only one that would room with Jackie Robinson. And he did not go in the rear of the hotel. They walked in together. Like maybe he was his caddy, maybe he was a chauffeur, maybe he was a personal assistant, but there were no questions asked if Jackie was holding the bag and walked through the front door of the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
he was.
May I interject what I think was the toughest thing that Jackie had to overcome, and that was that his teammates, not all of them, of course, but X number of them, were going to sign or already signed a petition to get him off the team, that they wouldn't play with him. This is his teammates. We're not talking about Philadelphia, Sawyer, although we're not talking about St. Louis.
It wasn't Sawyer, it was Chapman.
We're talking about his teammate. Getting over that was absolutely amazing.
It's because you must understand what the racism and what the segregation was like, especially in the South, back in 1947. And with this Trump presidency, you see sort of a rehash of it right now. But the point is this: in the South, in 1947. African Americans were not literally allowed to be in the presence of whites. They weren't allowed to be in the same,
bedroom.
Yeah, or they couldn't. They had to sit in the back of the bus, or there were so many rules. They couldn't drink at the same drinking fountains as whites. And the whites looked at blacks as not human.
Right.
So, fortunately, guys, let me share this with you. I lived in Italy for the last 32 years, and I've studied the Tuskegee Airmen, who were with my manager, Ted Williams, who Ted Williams said to me, Lenny, these guys are freaking awesome as pilots and players. And I wish Jackie could come in when I came in so that I could see the best against the best like Satchel Paige. I personally took a group of guys on a junket like Babe Ruth and the guys that were liberal enough like Pee Wee to go, let's do an exhibition game with us against the best of the best. Because we're hearing about these guys. We're hearing about Josh Gibson. We're hearing about Ernie Banks. We're hearing about the catcher, Campanella.
Cool Papa
these guys,
Drew Allen came out of that league.
The problem was that the baseball commissioner, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, prohibited it.
He
really was so against whites, playing against blacks in exhibition games.
But you know what helped, guys? The war. Ted said to me, I knew that these guys had my back. I knew that we're going to get frickin' Hitler. I don't care what color they are. They're frickin' the greatest ball players and bombers and pilots. They took the first trip, guys. They went in and got it done. And he said, they got my back. Now, in the trenches, Yogi goes, they got my back in Sicily. I don't care what color they are. They're getting Hitler.
Yeah.
Hank Greenberg said to me, I'm quitting baseball to go get that son of a whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
He says, and all these guys got my back. We're talking DiMaggio and Yogi and the Willie Mazes and the young Henry Aarons is going, look, we're quitting. Willie, we're going to go get this guy. He's destroying the country. He's destroying the world. This has nothing to do with color. This has had something to do. I met a guy the other day since I left Italy to eat, just to go eat. And when I saw the Statue of Liberty, I cried. I wanted to eat the toes of this. I love America. It's like if there was no racism, it was about survival. Yeah. Survival. And all the airlines and the military and the veterans, they know that. They're a whole different bond than average people that know what's going on. Because when you go to war, you don't look. Your little head sticks up, Ralph. Do you think you're a peacock or a person? What do they think? Huh? You think when I see your head peep up, you think, well, we're not going to shoot Ralph. He's chocolate. No. We're not going to shoot Peter. He's vanilla. Well, we'll take the day off and just get the guys in the green suits.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, like Peter was saying about the South. But you know what? It was no better in the North. In St. Louis, Philadelphia,
it was hidden.
Chicago. It was I mean,
it was sublime. It was sublime. No one knew.
He wasn't allowed to stay in the hotels. Finally,
that's right.
Joe Black, Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella, and Don Newcomb went to the Chase Hotel in St. Louis and said to the general manager, why can't we sleep with our team? And he says, okay, I'll make you a deal. I'll let you stay here at the hotel if you promise not to use our swimming pool. I mean, it's bizarre. This is what happened.
It's bizarre. I mean, it is, looking back on it, it's bizarre. But they would lynch people.
Yes,
they would lynch people for doing worse things than that. Emmett Till, who was from Chicago, goes down to Mississippi and whistles, so they say, at a white woman. And what do? They go into this poor kid's, he's 13 years old, they go into his home, they grab him, they tar and feather him, they beat him to a pulp, they kill him and throw him in the river for whistling at a white woman. You've got to understand what it was like in 1947 when Jackie came.
Yeah, that's right. And Rachel, God bless her, was right there in the stands.
Oh, my God.
Watching all of this. Just imagine all the catcalls she was listening to in the stands. And then watching her husband being hit in the head or being spiked or all these other things. She was there at first hand. And I mean, I think Rachel Robinson may be the most important woman in the history of the major leagues. She didn't own a team or cover the game as a reporter or play the game herself. But as Jackie's partner and as a person who kept alive Jackie's legacy, Rachel Robinson has had a significant influence in her own right.
Absolutely.
As have you, Ronnie, because you're carrying out Jackie's legacy as well.
Yes.
Tell us all about what you do as a public speaker in the Minneapolis area.
Well, I've been going around for over 30 years speaking about Jackie. The whole thing started in 1987. It was the 40th anniversary of Jackie breaking the color line in baseball. And I wanted to be part of it in some way. Here I had all these personal letters from him, all handwritten. I had his friendship and everything. And I called Major League Baseball in New York, and one person led me to the next, to the next, to the next. I ended up talking to the producer of the Game of the Week. If you remember, on Saturday afternoons, they had a Game of the Week.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a half-hour show before the Game of the Week. He says it equates to 18 minutes. He had Rachel Robinson, Don Newcomb, Pee Wee Reese, Roy Campanella. He says your story would get lost. I said, look, I'm looking only to tell this story of a man and a boy. Where should I go? He said, I just hung up with a reporter from the Chicago Sun-Times. He says, give him a call. I called him. He called me back. We spoke for an hour on the phone. He ended up flying up to Minneapolis and spent a whole day with me. And as I'm driving him back to the airport, I said, Brian, how big of an article do you think this will be? And he said, well, the Sun-Times is like a tabloid, like a magazine-type format. It'll probably be 2 pages. Well, it came out that Sunday. It was a 4-page story. He won an award from the AP as the best public interest story of 1987.
That's beautiful.
Then I get a call from the Minneapolis Star and Tribune. They did a story. Then I get a call from the school. When I come in and talk to the kids, I said, I'd love to. So I get there and I said, all right, kids, how many of you ever heard of Jackie Robinson? And this little boy stood up and said, no, who is she? And I said, who is she? And I realized at that point that this was my mission, as almost like a baton pass that Jackie had given me to carry on his message and his legacy. And I've been doing it to corporations, to companies, to clubs, to schools for 30 years. And I work part-time for the Minnesota Twins. They have a lot of tour groups that go through the stadium, and I'm part of their program. I present, a whole presentation. I have a PowerPoint presentation and a part of a DVD. And I talk a lot about not necessarily what he did on the base paths, but I talk about what he did afterwards. what he has done for this country and this world. It's so important because a lot of people, yeah, he was a baseball player. He was the first African American. He was this, he was that. But they don't realize what he was after that, what he did for this country and this world. I have a beautiful letter here that I received a couple of years ago from Rachel. It's just a short letter, and I wanted to read it to you. Dear Ronnie, how wonderful to hear from you, and how delighted I am to learn that you enjoyed the movie 42. I am so happy to know that the years continue to be kind to you, and that you are now the proud grandfather of 10. Periodically, I read articles that feature the very special relationship you had with Jack, and I am so happy that through the years you've kept my husband's legacy alive. It has been so important to me to share Jack's story with a younger generation, and you've done so by sharing the letters that span so many years. I am so grateful. With all my love, Rachel.
That's wonderful.
Isn't that beautiful?
I thought
It is just beautiful. That is just wonderful.
If I were you, Ronnie, I'd put that in a vault, lock and key, and have Peter guard it every day.
Yeah. Peter, would you do that?
Sure. I'd be glad.
Yeah.
The amazing thing, there's a gentleman there with you, Ronnie, named Daniel House. He's a student at the golfer at Minnesota University under the Walter Cronkite Scholarship via Arizona State / Minnesota. He, through us, guys like you, is studying the Jackie legacy because his interest is you, and he doesn't even know that you're there. He thinks you're a guy who's living somewhere in a vault up in the Hall of Fame wall somewhere. Because your story is so phenomenal. Because nobody gets any credit in Minnesota but Adrian Peterson and a couple other guys.
What's his name and where is he located?
His name is Daniel House. Yes, he has his own blog called Dyking Corner House, like house, with you own your own house.
Daniel House.
Daniel House.
Okay.
Viking Corner. And he also covers his twins. And he's a young 19-year-old phenomenal future Walter Cronkite. I kid you not. He'll be the general manager of the Twins or general manager of the Vikings.
I will reach out to him.
Love him. He is a phenomenal kid. Phenomenal kid.
Before we get to Alan Blumkin, who was a Yankee fan, I want his impartial impression of Jackie. I want to ask Peter Golenbock if you would kind of paraphrase Jackie and Rachel's first trip to spring training in 1947, and how, from your book.
Okay. This is as Rachel told it to me. Obviously, they left Pasadena to go to Florida to spring training, and they started. It was a plane trip, and they flew to New Orleans, where they got off. And then when it came time to catch the flight from New Orleans to Florida, they stood there while 4 white people walked past them onto the plane, and they said to them, "I'm sorry, if there are any white people, they take your seats and you don't get to go." And this is astounding. I mean, they've never experienced anything like this. And she's never experienced anything like this.
Never. She has never. Right.
Never.
Right.
Never, ever, ever. So she's just, agape. And there's another plane that comes, and more white people walk on, and they've got to get to spring training. So it's like they put their head together. It's what should we do? So they decide to take the Greyhound bus from New Orleans the rest of the way. And of course, they have to sit in the back. She's wearing her fur coat, and he's all dressed up, and he's sitting back in the back with farmers with chickens in the back of the bus. And they're traveling to Florida. And Jackie is just steaming. I mean, he is steaming. And because Rachel is the one to quiet his emotions, they were able to get to Florida okay without causing, so much difficulty that they got themselves either thrown in jail or shot. But they did manage to get to Florida, and that was just the beginning of some of the terrible things, that happened to Jackie because he was black. There was one game in Florida, the sheriff wouldn't even let the game go on.
Right.
We're not having no mixing of the races today, folks.
Yeah,
and they canceled the game.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, and again, it's hard in the year 2017 to think that people could be so hateful. Though, of course, we're seeing some of that.
We're seeing more of it again
today.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
And there's a backlash to every race. I mean, if you hate Muslims, the backlash of hating Jews comes right after that.
Exactly.
When you're tired of hating Jews, you go back to hating blacks for a while. Yeah. And if they really run out, you can always go back to the Irish and the Italians, who were hated just as vehemently when they came to this country, but not as vehemently, any of them, as blacks were. Only because you wear it on your sleeve. It was just, Lenny, do kids today, you're basically an educator of baseball today. Do kids today playing in the major leagues appreciate what Jackie did, what Jackie and Rachel did, or is it all about the money, and is it not an issue anymore?
What's happened, guys, I'm going to be very frank with you, on a trip to Japan we had Ward, Bobby Bonds, Barry Bonds, Reggie Jackson, Rachel, and Tommy Agee's wife, Crane Poole. It was phenomenal. Steve Garvey, Luke Brock, George Foster. We're all talking about what you're talking about now. And on that trip, Rachel was saying that you guys got it good. And I mean, we're sitting on a airfloat plane with two floors. I mean, 2 levels. We got champagne, caviar, and anything else you want flying across the Pacific. All of a sudden, everybody realized that Rachel Robinson is on the plane. We invited Roy White and I. We had a big party in UCLA, and she was our host, and my wife and mom, and everybody saluted the women, because the women go through so much. This is Crane Poole's wife, Brody's wife, everybody's wives that were on the plane, and we took our hats off to Rachel, because Rachel took, as a nurse and a sophisticated lady from UCLA Pasadena, she was a Diane Carroll. She had class. Rachel Robinson was like an ambassador for baseball, for the world, etiquette. Absolutely. She could have lost it, but she never did. So when I talk to the young African Americans, Latin kids, Italian kids around the world, 40% of them, almost 60, don't know who Jackie Robinson is. They just don't know. It sounds like a myth, like King Kong or the Mighty Joe Young. I mean, it's just not. It's not like a true story. They can't believe that today that they're having issues, because if they have an issue today, they just don't want to face it. They don't play. They don't want to play baseball. If one bad negative thing to an African American or Latin kid from a coach who's too aggressive or too embarrassing, that make them pick up the trash. They could steal a base, but they can't play today. They go in to pinch hit, but they can't play every day. And all of a sudden, one scout or one coach from a high school or college would go, why is he not playing every day? He went in the pitch hit, stole second, stole third. His name is Aaron Judd. Who is this guy? He's biracial, by whatever. Is that the only kind of player? Is that another Jeter? I mean, it's kind of weird that they today are sensitive today because of social media. Kids will go play football. They'll try to be like Kobe or try to be like Shaq. They don't want to deal with the issues. So I asked 20 of them at my son Bradley Randle's camps, and then we do cross training camps. I go, why don't you football guys want to play like Michael Jordan did? You know, he quit basketball, went to baseball. How can you want to be like Brian Jordan or Deion Sanders? And they go, who are those guys? They don't know
they don't know.
And this is current. Yeah. They don't know. They don't know the history. So you almost have to take a middle school group or elementary group and say, look, we're going to take the fundamentals of sports and education and let you know the history of the most beautiful international game, second to soccer or third to football, depending on what category you guys want to put it in. And it's amazing that 40 to 60%, and Rachel goes, Lenny, when you came to New York and you came to my office, I was shocked because I thought no one but you and Doc Ellis appreciated what we do, what I do, and how I suffer.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Right.
One person can't build this mountain. One person can't. Guys, if we put a group together, a panel together to try to change that culture, Peter, we got to write about it. We got to take a tour. We might make it an internship class. It has to change. Now, the Latin players, their whole life is baseball, period.
Right.
Every 6 blocks, every 10 blocks,
everywhere.
Baseball.
Yeah.
A stick ball, a tree, and a sock. It's baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming to America.
Pull something up in tape, or you make a glove.
Yeah.
Sure.
You guys played stick ball. I'm not telling you people your age,
absolutely.
but you know what I mean. Any means necessary. It's not happening in America. Guys, I'm seeing people want to get into a facility with air conditioning now. They don't even want to go outside.
Well, I'll tell you something even sadder than that. I have a friend who is involved with Major League Baseball and football and basketball, and he does polling for all three. And he has discovered that the kids between the ages of 13 and, say, 20, those kids have no interest in any of them. What they're interested in is with their 2 thumbs on that little machine,
on that little
where they're
machine.
playing, warfare this and warfare that, or they're playing, spaceships, shooting other spaceships, and these kids are playing for $1 million prizes. It's something you and I don't know very much about, but it's happening.
Well, there are a couple of colleges that have scholarships for video game playing.
It's not out of the question. It is not out of the question, if you can imagine.
Did not know about that.
I had the privilege, guys.
Let me give Alan Blumkin a hand. He is a Sabre superstar, and he's our Damon Runyon of this guy. He goes back to the Damon Runyon days of telling it like it is in sports. You grew up in New York in Jackie's time. You were a kid in Jackie's time. Tell me from your impressions, Al.
Well, I used to argue when I was a kid that Billy Martin was better than him. Because I was a Yankee fan. It didn't matter.
Of course you did. Of course.
Basically,
did.
One of the things I do on Facebook is any time a prominent baseball player, the anniversary of birth, I put it down. So on January 31st, I put down that this was the 98th anniversary of the birth of Jackie Robinson.
Right.
Along with Babe Ruth, the 2 most important players, Major League Baseball, players in the history of Major League Baseball.
Absolutely correct.
And it took me a little while because when I was a kid, when you're a kid, you don't realize the impact of what he did.
Sure.
It's only years later that I got into Negro Leagues and I learned the absolute whole story. And basically, I saw the movie 42 when I read about it. Ben Chapman was not Eddie Sawyer was the manager of the Phillies when Jackie came.
Ben Chapman.
Ben Chapman.
I'm sorry, I got that wrong.
All the crap that he went.
That's why you're here, Al.
Yeah, he went through, and I think one of the things that helped Jackie was when the Dodgers brought up Don Newcomb in 1949, and he started answering the other teams when they threw at Jackie.
No two ways about it. They stopped throwing at Jackie as soon as Big Nuke took the mound.
And,
that's true. And Drysdale.
One of the biggest supporters when he first came up was Hank Greenberg.
That's right.
He was a big supporter.
Went through
he encouraged Jackie.
a lot of crap, because he was Jewish.
He was Jewish, right?
That's right. Yep.
Absolutely.
So, when I tell people I know about the impact of Jackie Robinson, over the years I've gotten to appreciate more and more about how difficult it was. My father took me, used to sell jewelry in the South. He took me when I was 15 in 1958 through Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi.
Wow.
Saw,
Wow.
going to a gas station, men, women, colored restrooms.
Yeah.
I saw it too.
It was just unbelievable for a 50-year-old kid who'd never been out of New York before.
Yeah.
Alan, I had the privilege of meeting Hank and being the roommate of Steve Greenberg with the Texas Rangers and Washington Senators.
Yeah.
And Steve was telling stories every day like we couldn't believe. And his thing was, guys, invest in Gimbals and Macy's, the health of baseball in Bloomingdale.
Yeah.
Get the stock, hang with my dad. He lives in Beverly Hills. He's coming out to meet you and Matlock and Jerry Janeski and Hank and Frank Howard. And we went, that guy's smart. He's a lawyer. He's from Yale. How much do you want?
There's a story I read about Al Rosen once where
oh my God, what a genius.
The White Sox, there was somebody was yelling at some slurs at him, and he went over after the inning ended from third base and called him out. Called whoever was out, and nobody moved.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, Al was a tough cookie.
Al
was one tough cookie boy.
He wouldn't take any crap. You're right.
That's right.
He wouldn't. Yeah.
You guys realize that they were in an era with no helmets? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
No helmets.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
I
mean,
I remember they had thin liners in their caps.
Yeah. And the pitchers pitched just as fast then as they do now. It was just crazy.
Yeah. Same speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
I'll tell you a
bullets.
story. You talk about the South. My father was the Democratic National Committeeman for the state of Wisconsin. Okay? And in 1964, he was on the site committee to pick the city for the National Convention. So they went from, all the major cities in the country, from New York to, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Miami, Dallas, everywhere. And they were wooed, every city wanted a major convention like this. So they decided, they picked on Miami. They loved the facility there. They wanted to go there. So my father spoke up and he said, just a minute. He says, you know that the national convention is in the summer when kids are out of school, and you have a lot of kids that are going to go with their families, the delegates, to the convention. What's going to happen to these African Americans that are traveling from California or Arizona across the South to get to Miami? So they said, they all stopped and they said, yeah, you're right. So they called Governor Wallace. They said, what would happen if they proposed this situation to him? You know what he said? He said, I have no objection if they want to fly over the state. Do you know that Miami lost the convention because of that?
I'm sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
And the other thing I can tell you is that Governor Wallace didn't care.
No, he didn't care. He didn't care. And he meant what he said.
Yeah.
They say Babe Ruth changed baseball. Jackie Robinson changed America.
That's correct.
And he did it alone.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Alan, Peter, you guys realize that you guys are walking encyclopedias way before Google?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yes, you are.
Way before Google.
I've been told that a few times, yeah.
Yes. Wow. Thank you.
I need everybody's number, so I have to use Google anymore. I just want to call you guys.
Anytime, day and night.
Anytime now.
I have a question for you, and this takes nothing away from Jackie Robinson, but I have a theory that Frank Robinson
went
through just as much.
Oh my God! You guys have no idea. You have no idea.
Because Jackie played in Montreal in the minors. He came up to. He did have spring training in the South. All of that.
Only Frank Robinson.
Nothing away from him.
A lot of the black ball players from Oakland or from wherever. I got into an argument with somebody years ago where I thought were deliberately sent to places like Jacksonville, Florida, and Columbia, South Carolina to break their spirits.
Right.
Wow.
And I can tell you the black players that played out of Oakland.
Yeah, the really tough ones like Frank Robinson and Kurt Flood survived it. But they did this as a matter of course.
I have the privilege of having Frank Robinson as a manager in Puerto Rico with Juan Beniquez and Jim Stoddard and Gary Alexander and Ivan De Jesus. Guys, Frank told us so many stories about getting knocked down, crowding the plate, and he just dared him to throw at him. And he said, I'll take it out in the second base and in the shortstop. You guys have no idea what I went through in Don Buford, coming up through the minor leagues, always being abused every day, smoke bombs thrown at me like Dick Allen, and people threatening me and throwing black hats on the field. You have no idea what it's like to be in Puerto Rico. That's why Willie Mays, Roberto Clemente, and all the guys that you just named in your piece would go and live and stay in the off season in Puerto Rico or Venezuela, and they still consider that home.
Yeah, Stargell went through that also in the minors.
Stargell, phenomenal history there with Mr. Paniagua and Padron and Cesar Tovar and Paul Casanova saying, guys, come down to the South with me and live like a king and be appreciated for the culture and the riches that you've saved America and Latin America with your baseball and your wars. There was a more appreciation.
I had an encounter with Frank Robinson once. I'm waiting for the subway to go home after a Yankee postseason game in the 70s. And I turn around, Frank Robinson is standing behind me. So I said under my breath, I recognized him immediately. I said, what's a superstar like you doing riding the subway?
He never looked at himself above his wife Barbara.
He said to me it was the easiest way to get back to his hotel.
Well, he said to me he couldn't get a cab.
The Roosevelt.
Do you remember him standing outside trying to haul a cab, whistling at a cabbie, and the cabbie's going, "You're in a suit, but I don't trust you. You're in a suit." And but I don't trust you.
He put his fingers to his lips.
You stole the suit. And I'll tell you, if you guys want to go to Google and Google Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Larry David has this thing about race relationships that is so satirical and so right on, and just check that out. I'm trying to get Larry as a guest for Peter so we could solve the age-old question of the Seinfeld part, Steinbrenner. Who was the mole? That's what you want to know, Peter.
Yes.
All right.
No, just call him, Peter. Don't Google. Just call him Colette.
Okay.
Peter can pick up the phone. He can call anybody in the United States of America. They'll call him right back. But you know why? Because he says Lenny Randle is my friend.
Oh my God!
It's the same way.
Now you're running for Vice President of America, right?
No, because Lenny says Alan Blumkin is my friend.
Alan Blumkin.
And we all say Ron Rabinovich is our friend. So we're all a bunch of social climbers. And,
oh my God. Okay, guys, we are the world. Let's buck out the song. We are the children. We are the one.
Who was the one of you guys that told me about this Daniel House? Who mentioned that?
About the what? About the what?
About this fellow in Minneapolis, this Daniel House.
Daniel House, Lenny Randle. Daniel House, a young 19-year-old phenomenal writer and broadcaster. VikingCorner.com. Look it up.
I will look him up. Okay.
And the Vice President Tribune as well. Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys. Alan Blumkin, Lenny Randle, Peter Golenbock, and Ron Rabinovitz.
Hey, can you do me a favor, Ralph? And text me
I could assemble some folks on one show. Wow. Give me a little
this was great.
hand, ladies and gentlemen. Keep it going for the weak link at Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Ralph Tyko. Okay, guys. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody.
Lenny, thanks for dropping by. You got the number Sunday night. You could always call in. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you're doing and post your stuff on the website and on the group on Facebook, Comfortably Zoned. And it'll be great. We'd love to hear from you.
Ralph,
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you for inviting me.
Thank you
This
very
was
much.
great. I really enjoyed it.
Beautiful. Yes, Ronnie's at home on every show on Comfortably Zone. You're a part of it, Ronnie. Thanks, guys.
Google me those
Peter.
numbers. Google me those numbers. The walking encyclopedias. I need to know all their numbers.
Okay,
Ralph, will you
I'll
send the
get them
numbers?
all. Befriend them.
Okay.
You can call them in the middle of the night. Tell them
Okay.
Ronnie sent you.
Bella.
Right. And
Bella.
See you guys. Take care. Everybody out there, keep on keeping on.
Okay.
Adios.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Good show.